Forest alive. You enter what seems to be a clearing in a forest. It has a dense canopy and many animals live peacefully. You and your group decide to search for a town to sleep in, because it would certainly be better than sleeping in the forest. You all walk northeast and then hear a woman crying out for help. She is drowning in a pool of mud. It seems to be quicksand, and as you help her out, she turns into an ember of fire and rises to the sky, flying far away from the forest. You and your group are a little upset because she left without even a thank you. Suddenly a shriek of pure malice hits the air, and all of you are being held down by vine creepers, which slowly creep up to each of you. Then the flowers bloom all around the forest, and they explode, releasing a kind of gas which knocks you out one by one as you struggle to get free from the vines that held you captive. As the gas fills your lungs, you are all rendered unconscious. The gods. In the beginning there were three races: the Nox, the Ancients and the Yanis. They lived peacefully enough, but there was a yearly competition which was a substitute for war between the three factors of power. The eldest and most noble are the Nox. They were one of the first beings who made settlements and advanced as time passed. But it was law that they did not pass their knowledge outside of their kind. And they flourished as a race. The Ancients are the next eldest settlements known at the time. They tend to be more adventurous, and power came to them without trying. They were gifted and they were advancing leaps and bounds more than any other race at the time. They would trade powers and knowledge with those unsettled races at the time, and gained much by sharing and receiving wisdom from other life forms. They were the most intelligent race of all. The Yanis is a warrior clan. They fine-tuned their arts and they learned differently. They found that they could pass on knowledge from one generation to another by touch alone, thus building a wealth of knowledge to compete with the Ancients. They also had more offspring than the other races. Their empire was 3 times larger than the Ancients' population. Knowing this, their small rivalry made trust between the 3 races impossible, and they were left to learn things the hard way. Throughout time, heroes from each race were decorated and worshipped by all races. And then there came a time when these competitions were not enough. The Yanis, being weakest in magical ability, grew tired, and wanted more power. They had the superior population numbers, and used this advantage to make war with the Ancients. They did not ask for help from the Nox, and although the Yanis asked the Nox for aid, the Nox were smart enough not to get involved. They decreed that they were not enemies of either race. But if the other races took any actions against them, they would have no choice but to wipe both races out of existence. The Yanis suffered many losses. Their population shrank by half from the first wave of attack by the Ancients. The Yanis was losing, and they could not hold out much longer. Then the leader of the Yanis had a plan. He decided to use the Ancients they had captured as a way to end the war. Under the magical control by the Yanis upon the captured Ancients, they made it appear that the Ancients were planning to take over the Nox by attacking them directly. The controlled Ancients knew not what they did. The very next day both the Ancients and the Yanis were summoned to Nox territory and were told to cease their fighting or both would be held accountable. The Ancients stopped at once, but the Yanis leader was defiant and the fighting continued. The Yanis went so far as to capture many ancient priests and slit their throats. Disobeying the Nox was a grave mistake. They sent their best warriors and wiped out both Ancients and Yanis that were bearing arms at the time. There were heavy losses, especially by the Yanis. Penultimately, there were only hundreds of thousands left, mostly women and children. Originally, there were 200 million Yanis. The Ancients lost over 3 million lives from the slaughter ordered by the Nox. At last there was peace. Story Idea 1. How 3 became 4. The Yanis were said to have interbred with the unsettled masses, and the result of mixing their blood was that they suddenly lost the ability to pass knowledge from one generation to another by mere touching. But they became formidable warriors with great bodies able to endure a rough life. Due to their interbreeding, they grew again in massive populations of over 1 billion. But there were those that kept to the pure bloodlines, which had dwindled to a mere hundreds now. The tainted crossbreeds they called Vorlex. Thus the 4th race of Vorlex was created and is the ancestors of the humans of today. It was millennia after the Vorlex came to be, that the ancients produced an offspring known as the Sarapas. And the Nox also produced an offspring now known as Mono a few years after the Vorlex came to exist. But these weren't produced by birth, but rather from magic's story idea to the truth about the three kings. At the time, the only settlement known was Childman, the city of the Nox. This town flourished and an elder sat as master of all things, and to either side of him were his brothers, who governed the entire city. They were said to have mastered skills beyond the powers of gods. The brother to the left pursued the tree of knowledge and never returned. The brother to the right sought the fountain of gods, so that he could live forever. He never returned. The brother who held the throne sought for nothing more than to serve his people. Tales say that the one brother did find the tree of knowledge and ate of it, and having done so, his greed overtook him and he used all his power to hide the tree from anyone who sought it, keeping all knowledge to himself to this day. And fable also tells that the brother who sought the fountain of gods now lives to protect the fountain from anyone drinking from it and thus living forever. Such was his greed that he wanted this unto himself only. Some say these are just fairy tales, and that they are used to teach people lessons of what too much power will do to you. For they say the brother that humbly served the masses, lived a fulfilled life, complete to his end. But the fables also say that the truth is that each was true in a sense. The one who sought the fountain of gods was granted eternal life and youth. And now he is the keeper of the fountain. The undying lands were created by him after he roamed the lands and found no peace. He set out to create a place of peace for those worthy, due to their bravery and sacrifice. However, the one who sought knowledge was given the highest knowledge of a dragon, and that is what became of him. He is the eternal dragon, whereas the brother who stayed and ruled sharpened his skills, and today he still rules as the leader of the Nox. He has accomplished this by asking for human sacrifices as his need arises. He leaves his old body and his essence is transferred into the new sacrifice body to assure his reign will live on forever.